We've had a lot of success with like organic viral hacking, like when the New York Jets football player wiped his ass with a football as a celebration. That makes news. We're in his DMs. We're getting him dude wipes. We pay him to post on Instagram, and then New York media picks it up and it goes national. That is worth tens of millions of dollars once that gets executed in media value, and it costs us $5,000. We do a lot of sponsorships with MMA or like Jake Paul fights or NASCAR. And so being in the right places with your brand where you know your community hangs out. So like having that brand marketing channel fit, right? Because there's so many opportunities, but like where do we want to hang out that matches the brand, matches the community?
Welcome back to another episode of Chew on This. Today's episode is brought to you by Aftersell. Today I have the pleasure to bring Sean Riley, who is founder CEO of Dude Wipes, a brand you've probably seen around over the last decade, probably seen it on Shark Tank, but more importantly, I'm really excited to have Sean on because he's one of my favorite personalities, one of the people that I follow along and have learned a lot from just personally on LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And Sean, first of all, I just wanted to say, beyond anything, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and grace our viewers and come and spend time with us, because that means more than anything.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Ron. And like I was saying before, thank you for the content you guys put out and the information you put out. I know you guys are helping a lot of people, and if I can come here today and help some people out as well and talk about things that I've learned, you know, we're just paying it forward and helping out these entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Sean, where do I get one of these sleeveless tie-dye?
these
I think that'll look good on me.
San Francisco, I think it's like the Haight-Ashbury, kind of the OG Grateful Dead area.
Oh, wow.
You can buy these online from their website.
Wow.
And so this is like real deal San Francisco tie-dye. And
That's
then you
not
got to
fake.
cut the
Their
sleeves
search
off
volume.
yourself.
Oh, you can do it yourself.
You can ship it to him. It's amazing. Sean, before we jump into a lot of really cool things we want to unpack, for maybe the few viewers who don't know who you are for some reason, can you give them a little bit of the background of your journey to building Dude Wipes, especially over the last decade?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, kind of a day one guy at Dude Wipes. And so it was me and a couple of my buddies living in our apartment in Chicago. And we were, you know, it was after college where we had our 9-to-5s and trying to do something entrepreneurial. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, you know, in that similar boat.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got this job now. I went to college. I did this thing, but like feels like there's something more, you know, to life, or wanting to do something for yourself. And so that's kind of where like the energy and the mindset started. And then we were living in this like animal house, you know, post-college bro place. And so, you know, we're going out all the time, drinking every night, you know, it was a wild lifestyle. And I bought baby wipes for the house and started putting them all in all the bathrooms. And that's when we quickly realized, okay, all these dudes partying, taking big nasty shits coming through this apartment, they all love baby wipes on their ass instead of toilet paper. And so why is this thing just baby wipes right now? How do we do something creative around it? And so that was the genesis of the Dude Wipes like idea.
Wow.
Is like, hey, we should make some flushable wipes. We, you know, should sell them instead of toilet paper. People need to know about this. And then the Dude Wipes brand came from that energy and like that fun mentality when just like you and your buddies are sitting around on a couch making stupid jokes, laughing, like that's the best, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know? And so like that was like the time and place we were in. And we were like, well, what if a brand like really felt like that and really talked like that? And so that was kind of the brand idea. So we were very brand first in the way we were thinking. Everything was about like, how could the Dude Wipes brand be fun? How could it be different? Of course, you got to go figure out how to make a pack of wipes and all that stuff too. But, you know, those two things came together. And then we spent about 30 grand of our own money to buy our first batch.
Wow.
And, you know, brought them up in the apartment and said, all right, you know, now how do we grow this business, sell stuff? And that was in 2012 when our first batch of Dude Wipes, you know, came to the apartment.
Wow. Before we get started, here's a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Aftersell. At Obvi, we recently broke 100 million in sales, and I'm gonna share one of the mindset shifts that helped us get there. We call it focusing on the transaction moment. It's that point when your customer has their wallet and is ready to buy. Most brands stop right there, but that's actually where the real opportunity begins. We learned this lesson with Aftersell. Since adding their app to our site, we've transformed our checkout experience into a true revenue engine, all while giving customers a more personalized experience they actually appreciate. If you're feeling the squeeze of rising ad costs and customer price sensitivity, Aftersell is the only answer. Now, let's get back to the episode. I'd love to, incredible journey, and especially because like there's a part of Dude Wipes that feels like it just launched.
Right, yeah.
And then there's a part of it that's like, wow, you're like trending towards a legacy brand already, you know? And I'd love to get a little bit of color. Like, you know, you guys had your journey into Shark Tank, which I'm sure was a big moment. And then obviously just an immense amount of growth year over year. Tell us back to the early days. You've got the concept, you've got the product. What was that first taste of like, hey, I think we might actually have something here beyond just an idea, beyond just something that we're going to use.
Right.
Give us a little bit of that, maybe a little bit of that journey into Shark Tank and what that meant for you guys. And you know, there's a lot of also twisted thoughts around what Shark Tank really is. And if it helps or not, would love to get some color around that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, our first full year in business, we made like just over $100,000, you know, so it does start small, but to us that kind of felt like a lot.
Yeah.
And the first, you know, you get some deals that give you some confidence. Like we went down to my alma mater and just got like a free table at freshman orientation, and we were handing out wipes, and like okay, people are laughing, people are using them. Like we're getting those good vibes early on for the customers. Like that was like, okay, we think we're onto something. And then our first ever big sale was like the president of a frat came by who had like the house supplies, you know, checkbook, and he bought like $300 worth of Dude Wipes from us at this little table, and that was as many as we had in the trunk, you know. And so like that whole trip was a big success because some dude, you know, bought $300 worth of Dude Wipes.
That would have been perfect for us, but we just missed we had just graduated when you guys came out. We were in a frat.
Oh, nice. Where were you guys at?
We were in Pace, University of New York.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. You guys were
there were a lot of nasty shit.
Exactly. And so that was our early customer. Those were people who got it. You know, it gave us a lot of confidence. The first big deal I got after that was actually a Groupon. So I sold like $40,000 of Dude Wipes to Groupon. Wow. And, you know, I had never packed up pallets or done like a big wholesale order. And so like that was really cool. So like a couple of these things happened early on. Then we started getting into Amazon. You know, early 2013 really just starts with a buddy I know who sells shit on Amazon, you know, like, hey, can you get Dude Wipes up on there, you know? And this was back in the day where you could just sell anything on there. And, you know, as long as you knew what you were doing, you didn't need a brand or you didn't need anything. And so he gets the listing up. He's starting to sell them. Hey, can I get more? You know, can I get more? And like, so that started opening our eyes. Like, hey, this is a channel that we're actually able to move product in where we don't need a retailer to give us a yes or a no. So we started kind of taking over that business ourselves and building it. And that's what ends up kind of getting us on pace to make $1 million a couple years in the business, getting us finally the invite to be on Shark Tank. We have been trying out when we were smaller, but like, you know, sales solve everything and shows that you have a proof point with the customer. Absolutely. And so as the sales started growing, opportunities like getting into retailers and getting on Shark Tank start happening. Like, you know, 3 years into the business sort of is when we got onto Shark Tank.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It sounds like when you guys first started, it was more so, okay, well, how can we, you know, sell batches of this, right? Like how can we get bigger orders like POs, whether it's like a Groupon or selling on Amazon, and then eventually Shark Tank and getting into different retailers. The one thing that you didn't mention is a D2C website.
Yeah.
What was the thought behind that? Was it just something that you weren't interested in, didn't see the value, or even today the focus isn't necessarily there? So curious why.
Well, back then a D2C website was a little harder to run, you know, And so it just wasn't as cut and dry with Shopify and all these apps and plugins. And so, we didn't have money to pay web developers or in-house expertise. And so if you could just flip stuff into Amazon and just run that marketplace, it was easier, right? And so that's where I focused my own energy and expertise in the early days. And it doesn't take long if you're in the pocket of reading shit and messing around on Amazon to get it. I feel like anybody, if that's what they're dedicated to, 6 months, okay, got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that started developing. And then as Shopify became more prevalent, we did launch more into D2C and spend some money on Meta. But it was never really profitable for us. You got unit economic issues with big packs of wipe that are cheap. And so as we evolved, we were kind of this Amazon first business. And then it was around post-COVID 2020 or something where we just kind of why are we spending all this money on Meta and this creative and time and energy when Walmart's growing like gangbusters, Amazon's still growing? Why don't we use it, mass media, brand awareness, and funnel everything through these major outlets instead of losing 15% every time I ship some dude wipes out the door? And you guys know, it's a lot of work to run that ecosystem. And so if the unit economics work great, or if you're early on and you're trying to prove out the business, it's great. But if the unit economics aren't great and you have this mass opportunity, you are a lot of times better focused putting that money and that energy into that mass opportunity. So a couple different reasons why we don't really have much of a D2C business. I mean, you could buy a pack of wipes on our website right now, but that's just gonna be an organic transaction that we let happen. And we have fun emails and text messages. So we're still trying to build community, but we aren't focused on that. We aren't focused on that as a channel for sales. But yeah, we are focused on TikTok shop and stuff these days. So there are these other places that if we see opportunity, we're going to go after it. It's still a marketplace. So I don't know if we consider that D2C or not, but that's something where we are willing to go hard and right now invest in, scale up where we see, relevancy in the platform and upside omni-channel.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. The TikTok piece makes a lot of sense because the whole premise around Dude Wipes is this content machine that you guys have created, right? If you go, I mean, anytime I see a mukbang video, I see Dude Wipes as the first comment, right? You're gonna be needing us later, right?
Right.
So it just makes sense that you guys are in the places where you guys can actually distribute your content, right? And that strategy makes a ton of sense, right? So I'm very curious, the one thing that you mentioned, which is let's just start pushing brand awareness. Let's just get in front of everybody and let people shop where they want to shop, right? So very curious on your guys' take on how do you do that? What is the machine behind pumping out all this creative and getting in front of people at the utmost mass appeal for the brand?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of ways to do it, right? And you start seeing all these marketing opportunities that come in as your brand grows, and every sports team in the world will reach out to you, and all of that stuff. So there's different plays. I still really like organic plays. So that's being on TikTok, commenting, posting videos, trying to get in front of situations that are happening in the news and all of that. So we've had a lot of success with organic viral hacking, when the New York Jets football player wiped his ass with a football as a celebration, that makes news. We're in his DMs, we're getting him dude wipes. We pay him to post on Instagram, and then New York media picks it up and it goes national. And everyone's talking about how Dude Wipes sponsored this guy who wiped his ass with a football. And that is worth, tens of millions of dollars once that gets executed in media value, and it costs us $5,000, so I still love those plays, and those are things we're always on. And then, we're on TV right now. So running commercials, being top of mind. We do a lot of sponsorships, with MMA or Jake Paul fights or NASCAR. And so being in the right places with your brand, where you know your community hangs out. So like having that brand marketing channel fit, right? Because there's so many opportunities, but like where do we want to hang out that matches the brand, matches the community? So you start bringing all these things together, and then retail media becomes super important too. Like obviously now when you're shopping at Walmart or on Amazon, I want to be in front of you, showing you widgets, giving you more chances to buy. So you got to really be marrying up all that stuff lower on the funnel, you know, as well. And that's where we were more concentrated in the beginning, was the PPC stuff on Amazon, the retail media. Everything top of funnel was, hey, do it on a budget, go make noise. Like, you know, let's get brand awareness. And then as we grew, you have to start funneling more money up towards the top for brand awareness, because you have the capital to spend and you have to get the brand more well known, because you're just trying to make those pulls off the shelves better. And I got to like make those little mental impressions on you in a lot of different ways, because that's what everyone was trying to do, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious what the first moment you guys had. Obviously Shark Tank was a big moment where you guys went on, and I'm sure you saw the lift, right?
Yeah.
What was another big moment for you, and what is something that other brands out there can try and manufacture where, okay, this is something that I may not be able to attribute to direct sales, but I know that this is going to cause a lift. What can brands do to really kind of just manufacture that for themselves?
Yeah, you have to remember brand is this long game when you do like a true brand play. And so whenever something goes viral, the first question we get is, what is the lift? Or like, what did you see? And, you know, the answer is often disappointing. Like, yeah, maybe we saw some traffic, but it didn't like blow the checkbook up. But people are then talking about it 12 months later, 24 months later. You're buying mind share and a mental impression. So you make that conversion better on shelf. You have to appreciate brand, I think, is probably the first like tip, and be always on with it. And knowing when something goes wild for a bunch of impressions, that's a win. That's just your win. You know, a bunch of people saw your brand, thought about it, talked about it. You don't need sales at that point. You already won. You had a big brand play that went for tons of impressions. So like even pre-Shark Tank, Tyron Woodley, over 10 years ago, we sponsored his ass in a UFC fight. And that was back when you could put brands on their shorts. And that went worldwide on Twitter. That was our first viral moment ever, where Dude Wipes was the #3 trend worldwide on Twitter. Because during a pay-per-view fight, there was a logo on a guy's ass.
Dude, I saw
just it. Perfect. You know what I mean? Like, people had to talk about it. They thought it was so funny. You know, we couldn't really measure the sales impact. Like, yeah, we saw some sales come through, but it becomes a moment that people will remember the brand for a long time. And then you're just building on moments, creating more of them. So you just gotta kind of appreciate how long the brand game is, and then appreciate the lower funnel too. And like, that's where I think you need to be more measured and focused. But I think the mistake that we make sometimes is then we go upper funnel, and there's all this technology out there, and there's all this AI and omni-channel and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, you're not gonna figure it out. You know what I mean? You can't figure out all this top of funnel stuff. You have to like use budgets, use the different parameters. You know, I've been pitched the best MMMs and all this kind of stuff, and no one's really ever been able to tell you, I can figure out, you know, how all of your dollars are returning. So it's like, where you can measure, be measured, and then where you can't, measure the impressions and like the fit for the brand, you know?
Love that. It's a great call out. I'm super curious. I mean, a lot of what you even talking about right now, like we had the team from Liquid Death here a few days ago, and a lot of similarities in the kind of mental way of thinking about like top of funnel and brand. I'm really curious in terms of like when you take brand and then you look at product, right? There's an element of like a feeling of like what feels taboo, right? It's like, oh, well, it kind of reminds me also of the brand like Tushy, right? Where they're talking about bidets and they're talking about something that feels like, you know, a little bit taboo in the sense of like how you talk about it, what you kind of have to put in your material, and why this would be important for someone to buy. Was that something that you guys had like trouble to get through when it came to, or did it come so natural, and it was because it's part of the ethos of the start of the brand, that it was just always natural for you guys to put that across in all your brand material, if you're buying a billboard, wherever it may be? How did you guys think through that part of it? Because sometimes there are people who are like, oh, I want this, but like I don't know if I like want to be proud about buying this because like, I don't want to talk about it, or like it's kind of just silent, and it's just one of those things. I'm just curious, like how do you balance that piece? Because sometimes you want a consumer that is probably very excited internally, but is not externally talking about the brand the way you guys talk about the brand, and that balance sometimes feels like it's a really interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, it was always easy for us to talk like this because this thing came out of a shithole apartment, not a boardroom or an agency or whatever, and so it's like, this is who we are, this is what we're going to put out, and we just had confidence, like that's what people want. Like people want to be talked to just like you bros do behind closed doors. Like that's how the consumer wants to banter, and so that was our theory out the gate. And we even had to learn, like, oh shit, we got to tone it down a little bit, like from when you're just doing a couple $100,000 versus a couple million, and like major retailers. And so like a brand is always going to evolve too.
Right.
But it's got to be authentic. Like that's got to be the main part. And yeah, our whole thing was, you didn't want to tell your buddies you were using baby wipes, but maybe you'd want to tell your buddies you were using dude wipes.
Love that.
And word of mouth is everything. We can talk about everything else in marketing. Still nothing beats word of mouth.
Right.
So if you create a brand that you're actually like and proud of, that you want to tell your buddy about, the growth is exponential. Versus if you create a brand, that's got a puppy dog on it and it's flushable wipes, I might use it, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm sure as hell not telling my buddy, like, look at this blue pack of bland toilet paper brand flushable wipes. So yeah, having something that people want to talk about, just becomes such a competitive advantage, and you have to be unique to do that to your competition. You got to give them a reason to talk, know, and we give people a reason to talk. We give them the freedom to say shit instead of poo, or ass instead of butt, and just like lean in and have fun with something as such a commodity as a wipe. If we can bring that fun to it, that just, that runs the whole business.
That's incredible. Quick break to say thank you to today's sponsor, Aftersell. Let's talk about control in e-commerce, because here's the truth. We spend countless hours mastering marketing platforms we don't own or control. One algorithm change or one policy update, and everything gets turned upside down. That's why we started to focus on something we actually have control over, and that's our checkout experience. With Aftersell, we've built a conversion engine that's immune to platform changes. We're capturing more value from every visitor regardless of what's happening with Meta or Google. Our average order value went up by 15%. On top of that, with optimized post-purchase offers, we're earning even an extra 50 cents per order with Rock Thanks. And on top of all of this, we're seeing better conversion rates, even with higher cart values. Let that sink in. Stop pouring all your energy into external platforms and start maximizing what you actually own. Try Aftersell free for 60 days. It's time to take control of your growth. Now, let's get back to the episode. I'm very curious on when it comes to some of the elements that you guys are taking in terms of your marketing. Again, a lot of it being whether it's TV, billboards, etc.
Yeah.
When you boil it down in terms of, like you said, it is a wipe, right?
Right.
Is there an element where like you guys have also thought about saying, hey, like we need to go maybe broader to come up with new products or come up with new things to offer? Because I think there's a part of your brand that feels exceptionally focused. I think over the course of 10 plus years now, like there's probably so many things that could distract you for, even like you mentioned, there's so many tech tools in the ecosystem for e-commerce. And then there's so many things that you could have built Dude Wipes to even offer and whatnot.
Yeah.
How have you guys stayed exceptionally focused? Is that come from the fact that this is who you guys are and it's literally called Dude Wipes and that's all we're going to really focus on doing? Or have you guys tested things that's kind of brought you back to that nucleus?
Yeah. The day one idea was always the focus, but we have made mistakes along the way, and we've had shiny object syndrome, just like I'm sure all entrepreneurs have, because once you make one thing and it starts kind of hitting, you're like, oh, I can make another, and maybe that can hit, and you know what I mean? And then you kind of realize the girl who brought you to the dance is the one you should still be dancing with, but you started playing the field a little bit. And so our big mistake was in 2018 or so, we started line extending into men's grooming. So sounds very natural. Our customers were even asking for it, like a natural deodorant, a natural soap, some ball powder, how do we extend the Dude brand? And it's not that the stuff was doing so poorly. It was doing okay, but it didn't own a unique like positioning. Like, you know, we were fighting against Axe and Old Spice now, and like they already had cool guy brands, and we were a little more natural or whatever, you know, Dr. Squatch, guys like that. Like people were already doing it, and we were being more me too. And one of our values at our company, which has been a value since day one, is if you ain't first, you're last, which means being anything but a first mover is a loser's position. And we violated that value, and we started extending products in a loser's position for a little bit because we weren't, you know, first mover mentality. And when COVID hit and everyone ran out of shit paper and everyone wanted dude wipes, and our manufacturing tripled overnight, and we're just selling as many dude wipes as we can, we went, what are we doing? We're spending energy, money, time. We aren't unique. Like, what are we doing with this, all this other stuff, when this opportunity is still so early and so ripe? And so we started cutting all the other stuff, refocusing back into dude wipes exclusively. And that's, you know, where we are today. And so focus, I'm a big preacher of focus, because I think, you know, through my own lessons, it's things that a lot of people get wrong. Because they think in a short-term mindset of how they can make money, more money short-term, but in a long-term mindset, category kings win. And if you have an opportunity to be a category king, you should put all your capital and energy against that. And then let's talk about the consumer with focus. They only want category kings. 100%. You only have time in your brain to associate a brand with one thing. And the minute I start asking you to associate my brand with multiple things, I've now confused you. I've now probably reduced conversion. I've made it just what are these guys? Ass wipes, or are they deodorant, or you know what I mean? Like, no, they're ass wipes. When I buy ass wipes, I buy dude wipes. Like, we are the Kleenex of the category because of the focus. And that, if you can get there, is the best business to run, because then you can knock out supply chain, brand power, marketing power, volume. Like, everybody wants to be a Coke, right? You know what I mean? And so if you have a chance to be a Coke somewhere, don't let other things distract you. If you don't, if there's already a couple people that beat you to some space, maybe figure out how do you carve out your own niche of that space, you know, and reposition it. And so there's a lot of different ways to do things. So I'm not saying it's one size fits all, but I think we can all agree that every brand basically makes the line extension mistake at some point. And then some of them find successes as well. So every situation is different, but I can definitely tell you what I've learned from my situation and like how we're currently running this business is focus, strategic, category king.
It's brilliant.
I love that. I mean, you stick with the North Star, but you did do some expansion here with these dude wipes, right? Like, there's
hell yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple different products.
So that's one way. Been very intentional about keeping creativity alive. Like, when you run this focus thing, right? People can get bored. We're just gonna do this one thing, you know. I think people like it, but they get a little antsy.
Human nature.
And so we will approve anything if it's innovative related to this category. So if that's the Dumpkin Spice holiday release, go, let's test it. You know, if it's a new packaging configuration, go, let's test it. So I say we should be innovating in a vacuum with the product.
I love that.
This category, but let's find every little
iteration
and possibility of it, and just be the goats. And then for marketing, let's find every marketplace or marketing opportunity that can all bring it back into here. So you let the creativity run wild. You just say there's these strategic blinders. It's the old David Ogilvy line, give me the freedom of a tight creative brief. Everyone has a tight creative brief here. It's ass wipes, it's dude wipes, it's category king, and that's your freedom.
Yeah.
With that, you can go and create all of these cool things and these cool opportunities. But without it, you actually start confusing your team, and just all sorts of shit starts coming up in meetings. Well, we can do this, we can do that, you know. And for better or worse, people know, like, hey, if I bring Sean a dude wipes idea, like, he's probably going to say go, but I'm not going to bring him anything else, really. Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't bring me a wild ass idea, you know, but you will just know, hey, it's not in strategy right now, you know, and it has a low probability of getting approved.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine imagine how wild some of those ideas were. Can you share one that was just insanely crazy that you never went through with?
Oh, it's a couple wild ass ideas we didn't go through with. I mean, I think the like everyone wants us to make wipes for women is probably the most common
Dudette
one.
wipes.
You know, it's like because everyone likes the dude brand and even women like it and like they want this energy and vibe, but like they want us to do something that doesn't make sense. And so obviously everyone could use dude wipes and we have a lot of women who do, but you know, I always say, well, when is 50% of a market not enough for you?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's a great
Like
point.
if I can own 50% of a market and you're going to ask me to do other ideas that are going to deplete my messaging and my advantage here,
right.
you know, it sounds like a good idea when your Aunt Susie brings it up at a barbecue or whatever. But then when you actually peel back the strategy, the mission, the brand, the consumer, you kind of go, yeah, why would we do that?
Makes total sense.
I'm very curious. After the whole Shark Tank thing, and obviously getting an investment and working with some of these big sharks, what happens to like the structure of the business at that point? Are you still leading the charge here, and they're kind of just helping you do what you want to do, or does it become a little bit more shared on the responsibilities and I guess the outlook of the company in general?
Yeah, I mean, every deal is different. So obviously if like a shark on the show buys a majority of your company, it's their company now and they're going to call the shots and you know, you work for them. Most deals go down as an investment from the sharks. And so I, you know, just compare it to like an angel in terms of like structure and involvement. Like they gave you money, they're there to give you support. They're going to have resources. They're going to promote you and all of that. But, you know, Mark Cuban is our shark. He doesn't know what's going on day to day, nor does he care. You know what I mean? Like he gets the updates on Dude Wipes and he gives his big macro insight. And, you know, when you got a guy like Cuban, when you're doing 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 50 million, 200 million to kind of look around corners for you and say, well, at this point, you know, this is something you might want to watch out for. No, you guys are on the right track here. So, you know, in our case, we're buying a lot of that macro mentorship. Then like, you know, he's not going to make your business successful. He's done and he's very clear about that. Like the entrepreneurs are going to make their business successful. I'm here to put some capital in and then coach the ones who are coachable and help them grow. So maybe that's probably a misconception that like the public wouldn't get when they watch the show. They're assuming some sharks like now, you know, selling the brand and doing all of that. And like, you know, these are investors. Anybody who's been successful in the show is because they've had a great product and there's been good entrepreneurs behind it.
Absolutely.
And then the sharks, you know, have helped them kind of grow and succeed kind of deal.
Love that. Awesome. I want to jump into a little bit of the retail growth because I think it's phenomenal that you guys have, you know, obviously penetrated. How many doors are you guys at now, approximately?
I don't even know, man.
Well, tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah. So
It's good to know.
Joey, you got it over there for me?
So I'm really curious, like, and I think this is a selfish question because we kind of deal with this right now. Is like, you know, we went nationwide with something like Walmart, right? And it's been incredible. But now everything else feels like it's just a little smaller than Walmart. But when you go into them, they want you to treat them bigger than Walmart, right? They want you to treat them with like the utmost amount of power that you can put to bring velocities, the utmost amount of, you know, capital you can invest in their marketing, this and that. So I'm curious, like, how are you guys built out this retail growth channel, especially being in like literally every key retailer, and probably all of them looking for your attention to be like, hey, let's drive some stuff here, you know? And it's really interesting because you were, even as early as literally 24 hours ago, you were in Minneapolis with Target.
Right.
And again, I'm sure you're managing a lot of these expectations, whether it's, you know, in Walmart, Target, et cetera. How are you guys managing the entire ecosystem though? And what are some of the challenges that do come from being everywhere?
Yeah. Early on, you manage it with don't drown in opportunity. And so that's always been a Cuban quote in us. Like, hey, you just got into 300 Target doors, just win in those 300 Target. Like, you don't need to go start knocking on, you know, Whole Foods door right now. You know what I mean? Like, you have an opportunity, concentrate, win, figure out the channel, the relationship, set it up. So like pacing distribution will help some of that, like drowning in like this new channel and how do we support it and everything. But then let's say you have paced it like us and now you're everywhere. Like you have to have the right teams managing the right channels. You do have to treat all channels fairly because you want to be successful. And if your competition is treating, a 300 door grocery chain with more attention than you, like they're going to win. And you know what I mean? So like, but there's basic tools at the end of the day. You got some retail media or some Instacart, you got some sales you're going to run every now and then. And then it's the basics, man. Like, don't fucking short ship, like make sure your customers are in full and the stuff is showing up on shelf, and then execute on the basics. And, broker networks can help too, to manage relationships at places as well. So take care of those relationships, take care of that product, grow with that sustained distribution. And then also know, and you guys are probably getting into this, like, yeah, you're early in Walmart and you're seeing good success, but you're also just scratching the surface at Walmart. My Walmart business was, when we started, the first year was maybe like 3 million, and we'll do over 100 million in Walmart, and that's 7 years later. So it's just like any other channel, right? Like your D2C, or like your Amazon, like more velocities, more SKUs, build it out, the marketing gets better. And so that's the main thing to learn too, is like getting into a big retailer is the smallest that retailer will ever be. If your product's working and it's successful, you're going to be optimizing and growing for years to come. So understand that a Walmart, yes, should be a 5-year business plan. You know what I mean? And like, how are we going to tackle this thing over the next 5 years and grow in there? Because that is the kind of opportunity you have. You just got into the, Amazon of the real world or whatever, like there's so much traffic, there's so much opportunity. So yeah, being patient in Walmart is key.
Super helpful.
What were some of the things that you guys did to obviously go from 5 to 100? And obviously you mentioned, just getting the brand awareness out there kind of lifts, everything. But was there anything specific that you guys did per maybe each retailer?
No, I think it's just executing the basics, distribution and good marketing and good branding and positioning. If you put those things together, it just drives a lot of growth, and it works, and just being patient, pacing it out, not drowning yourself, and focusing. You know what I mean? Because that's how you can kind of trip up. You're on this mission, the hero stuff is working, but you're getting a little impatient because it's hard to see how much bigger it can be when you're only like in the present right now. And so those are things I can look back on and go, man, I thought the Walmart business was big, and now it's way bigger. And like, but it's hard to see that, and so it's not like a magic secret sauce, really. It's doing the right things that people will all figure out once they get in those channels, and have the right people around them giving them the right advice.
Right. How long did you wait until you started doing some of these off-shelf displays in retail? Like when I go to Walmart, I see the big dude wipes display.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, they get into retail, they always ask us, is it worth it, first of all, and then B, how long should you wait before actually investing in something like that, because it is pricey.
Yeah, I think you should always invest in it, because it's essentially like a huge incremental ad.
Yeah.
And so like if you looked at that just like you were looking at some sort of online play, like the ROAS would make sense. It's like, I'm going to have this great ad that converts, that millions of people see, because going down the aisle and seeing the little bottle, that's a needle in a haystack. Yep. Like that's very hard to convert on. But end cap, you're in front of everybody. They try you once. There's a great retention. Okay, now I tried Obvi, and the next time I come to Walmart, I liked it, and I'm gonna go look for it in the aisle and stuff too. So I would do those things every time. And you can measure a lift on them too. Like, hey, we paid this much. It ran for this 8 weeks. You could measure the straight lift on that event, and then know that there's going to be other cream on top of that because you're bought new customers as well. So until those things are proving like super inefficient on the cost, and I would just be gambling and taking them, because that's the name of the game in retail, getting in front of the consumer.
Makes sense.
It's amazing. I'm really curious. You guys have scaled incredibly well, and it's being a 12+ year journey now. What's your end goal here? Is it this is a brand you're going to be passing down to generations to come, or is this your goal is to take this IPO one day? Is it like what's been your kind of next 10-year plan?
Yeah, our 10-year plan is doing a lot more of the same.
Yep.
Scaling the brand. Honestly, the manufacturing of it, is reaching a large scale. So it's really.
Are you guys vertically integrated, or like is it all your manufacturing, or is it co-pack?
It's a co-pack. So yeah, we have a partner that we're kind of scaling all of the manufacturing with, and so it's about doing the right thing for the brand. I focus more on the process and like the day to day and enjoying what I do. So I always say, as soon as I stop having fun with it, I'm done with it. So if that's tomorrow, I'm done with it. If that's 5 years from now, I'm done with it. But while I'm having fun, I'm going to be involved in the process and doing my best and doing the right things every day. And then fucking good shit happens, right? And so if there's a right partner that wants to come in at some point and say, hey, we can help you guys scale, we can bring down your cost, we can, bring you to more customers. Like, of course, we have shareholders, we're always going to be open and interested in stuff like that. But you don't need to focus on that. You really need to focus on, how can I build this company the best? What can I do today? And what is going to help the customers out the most? Because that's what people want to buy, And I think over the years, sometimes when you start focusing on like, what could these M&As be and all of that stuff, it's not as productive as you would think it would be. Like, obviously you want to keep things in mind of how you can integrate and grow and where we need capital. But yeah, like I could be open to IPOing someday, it's like, or I could never do it because I didn't need the cash flow to do it, or I could sell to Procter & Gamble. Like, I don't know how any of those things would work out. What I do know is like what our customers like and what we need to do every day to keep serving them. So sounds simple, sounds cliche, but it really helps, just like do the right thing every day.
I think so much about it is mindset, right? It's like, I think so many, and part of it is like why you created what you created, right? Some people are like, I'm building a brand to make a lot of money, and I don't really care about how, but I'm just going to make a lot of money. And if that's your end goal, then kind of the process doesn't really matter, versus there are people who are like, I'm building a really cool product that I really believe in, and I'm just going to keep doing a lot of that and see where that takes you to.
No, I love that. Because like, a lot of people say that passion doesn't matter, and I kind of think the opposite. Like, I think the best brands are people who have something in their heart and they like authentically want to express it, and it gets them up every day, and they will just build for the long term. And like those, and then they're worth the most money too. You know what I mean? And the guy who wakes up and, he's selling dog food and he's never had a dog in his life. You know what I mean? Like, what's really there besides somebody trying to package something and flip it for some money or whatever? It's just missing something. It's missing the magic. And so that's where I think the best brands are. It's just they have that, magic in them. The founding teams have that magic in them. And then they create a culture where other people feel that and like want to do that. And like, yes, we all need to make money and we need to make EBITDA and we need to, we might have investors we have to keep happy. Like, yeah, those are all part of the game. But without like the passion, the heart, the authenticity into it, you'll never be on the same level as people who have that.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really curious, and I know I can't believe time's already passed so quickly, but a couple of things around, like, are there some really cool big bets you're taking going into, whether it's 25 or 2026, looking at something as simple as a Super Bowl commercial or something, a bet that you didn't maybe have on your radar, but are looking into it? Are there certain things that you're, even if it's the use of AI, whatever it may be? I'm curious on if there's some things that are upcoming.
Yeah, I'm betting on battling tariffs right now. You know what I mean? No, I'd say like, sometimes things happen within a year where it's like, oh shit, we got to refocus onto this right now and like make sure we straighten out our cost structure and have more variabilities and like supply chain and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff has come up this year. A lot of exciting, fun things in play, don't get me wrong, but then some even just like, how do we future-proof this, make this even stronger? We're opening up a new facility in Tennessee next week. So we're going to be bringing Walmart out there and doing like a ribbon cutting. So it's a new facility where we're bringing out a new machine. And it's the first of many machines to come, but each one creates 30 jobs, each machine that we bring on. And so like that's going to be a fun.
Produce the actual product.
Yep, cool. produce our wipes. And so, yeah, we're expanding and we're investing more with our co-man, to kind of like create our own upside in reality. So that stuff is exciting for us.
That's really cool.
But yeah, I'm trying to think what else. No Super Bowl commercial yet, unless one comes up. But I'm sure some fun stuff will come up for the end of the year too.
Last question on mine, at least, is team, right? Like you started this with, again, in your apartment with friends, and saw an opportunity, and then this journey comes to scaling an incredible business, tons of revenue, tons of growth, learning how to build a team for something that it gets to this type of scale. It's you don't get to learn that like just going to school or or reading a tweet or something. It takes a lot of obviously just learning from experience, learning on the job. How big is the team now, and like, do you find yourself still learning how to manage the team and grow the team? What are some of the things you can share that come from the learning of building a team of your size?
I mean, it's a learning experience. I'm still learning. We only have like 32 people right now or something. So we're considered lean, head count to revenue. So we'll continue to be growing the team since we built the lean bootstrapped company.
It's crazy because it's assumed to be like you guys are a much larger team from the outside looking in, but that's incredible. 32 people.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like focus helps you with that. We're doing one thing, you know what I mean? So you need less people. And then when you come up as this bootstrapped company, you've put in a lot of technology and systems, and like you've kind of learned how to do things with less people. So that's kind of part of the culture. Doesn't mean, of course, we need to keep adding heads and stuff like that. So the main thing in growing the team that I've learned is dial in the culture. And that is your filter for who you bring in. So I don't hire the smartest people. I hire the people that fit the culture best. Of course, someone who interviews with me is most likely qualified for the position, but I'm going to hire the person who fits more culturally than the person who has the prettier resume and experience. So making that decision becomes important, kind of being relentless about it, and then defining the culture, having your values, making a long culture deck. This is who we are. This is how we show up, making sure that everyone understands that, because then as you hire people, that's your ultimate filter. You're still never going to get it right 100% of the time and still have mistakes. But if you're not clear on that, you're sort of starting from nowhere. So yeah, we're very clear on that. And I think culture is the moat. People talk about brand being the moat, product is the moat, like culture is the moat. Those are your people. They create everything else. And that is what like no one else can knock off. No one else can create that frequency, that vibe that like runs around at your company. And even with your partners becomes important too. That they are like culturally fit. So if you stay focused on that, you'll figure out the rest of this stuff. You won't bat 1,000, on bringing on the people. You'll make mistakes, this and that, but at least you'll be starting from this intentional point of like, these are the kind of people that I want to bring on.
It's incredible. Great advice.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I mean, this has been absolutely incredible. Even from our end, and this is a conversation we have internally, which is like, we always go down this route of like performance marketing always first, and Ankit wants to go brand first always. He's been preaching it from day one, but this kind of just solidifies the reason.
You've
why
never said that.
It kind of solidifies it as very important for both, right?
It's a mix, man.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing: the life cycle of a brand, you will be more performance in terms of dollars in the beginning, because every dollar has to work for you. You should have your team say, don't give me an excuse that you need money to make your brand work. Like, have the team be as creative as possible to create brand. But then, and this is just classic CPG stuff, it flips at some point. And it flips based on omni-channel distribution when your performance can no longer be as functional and size. So you just have to be comfortable with flipping those percentages of the budget as the brand reaches different levels. And that's where you see some people, they came up so good at performance. You never want to lose that. It's part of your DNA. Like
Right.
it's part of your strength. You just want to be able to change the mix and let go of it and build the brand more, because brand will need to be more than 50% and performance will need to be less over time. Where in the beginning you might be 80 performance, 20 brand. You're going to get to a point where if you pull back a Procter and Gamble Charmin business plan, it's going to be 80 brand, 20 performance. And that's because it's a $3 billion brand or whatever.
Right.
So it's like phase it in there and tweak those spends, but don't lose who you guys are and what you're great at either. So it's definitely that balance.
I don't even know if I should ask for a chew.
That was the chew.
That might have been the chew.
That was incredible.
Chew on that.
Chew on that. If you want more from us, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and check out the website chewonthis.io.